Colchester, there are many examples of 19th century cast iron. Many of these were cast in the town foundries. These iron foundries later formed the basis of the 20th century engineering industries of the town. But this film is about cast iron, cast in Colchester and still in use in the 21st century. In 1741, Colchester was a small, hilltop market town. The increasing demand for agricultural implements led to several of the more enterprising ironmongers to venture into manufacturing. The first iron foundry in Essex was built by the ironmonger Joseph Wallace on land behind his shop in Colchester High Street in 1794. The original plans for this foundry show a 14-foot passage leading to the High Street, which today runs between Ratcliffe's Gunsmiths and Williams and Griffin department store. This was a convenient location for farmers attending the High Street market, and the agricultural implement manufacturing business flourished, as did the Commission's general castings activity. The cast iron columns of the Essex and Suffolk Fire Office, built in 1819, give some idea of the scale of work that could be undertaken. Another series of castings attributed to Wallace are the Royal Arms, found in churches in various parts of the country. There are several survivors in Colchester, including this one in All Saints Church, now the Natural History Museum. In 1834, Richard Coleman, a partner in the High Street Foundry, bought the house of John Osborne, now the Sheergate Hotel, where he set up his own foundry. The house became surrounded by workshops, warehouses and showrooms. Tucked away in a corner of the car park of the Sheergate Hotel is part of the original foundry building. This is the oldest surviving foundry in Essex. As well as manufacturing agricultural implements, Coleman also undertook civil engineering projects. The only surviving bridge is North Bridge. This bridge, cast in the Abbygate Works, was built in 1843 to cope with the increased traffic at New North Station. Other examples of Coleman's work are the railings in Crouch Street and Lexden Road. The honeysuckle design occurs repeatedly in his work and can be seen 26 times in the balcony of the George Hotel. The High Street Foundry continued to prosper under new owners, Thomas Catchpole and Son, who took over after the death of Joseph Wallace in 1849. Some of the best examples of their surviving work are in West Stockwell Street and Camp Folly. A characteristic of many of the railings they produced are octagonal posts bearing their name. Catchpole, the son, went into partnership with Henry Thompson in 1859. Examples of their work are the railings on Hythe Hill. and the cast iron water tank, now used as a planter in the castle park. This was rescued from the demolition of the Royal Eastern Counties Hospital, formerly the Railway Hotel. By 1843, when the Norman Moot Hall was replaced by a new town hall, the increasing demand for castings supported several other foundries in the town, including one in St Botolph Street, which was operated by William Dern, who made the gates for the new town hall. When the existing town hall was built in 1901, these really substantial gates were reused at the entrance to the law courts. Back at the High Street foundry, Catchpool's apprentice, James Paxman, set up his own foundry in Culver Street in 1865. The only surviving example of named work from this foundry are the railings in Portland Road. St Peter's Church railings are also attributed to Paxman, but have attached to them the name Bunting and Seabrook, who were High Street ironmongers between 1870 and 1888. When Paxman moved to new works on Hythe Hill in 1876, the Culver Street foundry continued to be operated by Mumford. By 1872, the High Street foundry had become Catchpool, Stannard and Stamford. Several drain grids bearing these names can be seen near the Essex County Hospital. During the 1870s, another foundryman, Bennell, left the High Street works to set up on his own in Grinstead Road. He cast railings with fleur-de-lis heads. Examples can be seen in Castle Road and Canterbury Road. Some of his other ornate designs can be seen in Grinstead Road and Winsley Road. Many of the urban improvements of the late 19th century were brought about by the availability of cast iron. Colchester is one of the few Essex towns to still have a selection of cast iron street nameplates. These were made and put up as a result of the Town Clauses Act of 1847. Before this, ordinary streets and buildings were not named. Some original cast iron bollards have survived in the town. These at Sheergate Steps were cast by Mumford. There is another Mumford bollard on the corner of Long Wire Street and Short Wire Street. Back to the High Street foundry, when in 1889 it underwent its last name change to Stamford & Co., a name which appears on many drain grids and manhole covers in the borough. At this time, Stamfords were the main jobbing iron founders in the town, and were probably responsible for the best series of tie plates in the country. Tie plates are used at the ends of iron rods or ties, placed through buildings to stop the walls falling outwards. Many of these plates are plain. But in Colchester, some are finely decorated with a stylised leaf pattern. The most elegant and numerous are the oval shape. The basic pattern of pointed leaves is augmented by a secondary pattern between and behind the first. This design has become known as the Colchester foliated style. These plates are rare outside the borough and are attributed to Stanford & Co. There is a plate on North Hill with the date 1809, but this plate is purely decorative, as there is no tie beam associated with it. Foliated plates are also most imaginatively used on the hoist mounting in St John Street. A major civil undertaking of the 1880s was the provision of the town's water supply. This involved the construction of a huge water tower which became known as Jumbo. All of the ironwork for this most conspicuous piece of ironwork in Colchester was supplied by Mumford from the Culver Street works. Although the castings for the tank itself proved to be beyond the capabilities of the firm and were subcontracted to a company in Newcastle, for the sake of civic pride, at the opening in 1883, all the ironwork was attributed to Mumford. Another borough undertaking was the provision of a public electricity supply. This began operations in 1898. Some of the original cast iron fuse boxes bearing the borough arms can still be seen, as can two of the ornate feeder pillars. Colchester is unique in still having a collection of locally cast iron fluted tapering lamp standards. These bear the names of 7 different Colchester foundries. Catchpool, Stanford, Mumford and Bennell have been mentioned before. Brackett took over the Grinstead Road foundry from Bennell in 1899. Schlimper operated the Abbeygate Works around 1902. Truslove continued casting lamp standards at the St Peter Street foundry after the closure of Mumford's in 1933. There are now no foundries in the town, but the heritage of such a rich collection of locally cast iron illustrates the profound influence that iron founding has had and continues to have on life in Colchester.